Monza 2017 Italian Grand Prix, and if you're a grid penalty, then you can get the fuck out of here because I'm sick and tired of your shit. I'm Chip from the Digital Grandstand, and here's the Beyond the Finish Line report for the 2017 Formula 1 Italian Grand Prix at Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Happy 70th birthday, Ferrari, you really gave yourself a great present this weekend. Right, let's get this one out of the way nice and early. Saturday qualifying, and bloody hell was that wet. On a rain-soaked track, the original Q1 session started at the normal time, 2 PM in Italy. But less than 5 minutes into the session, the Haas of Grosjean was caught out by the slippery white lines from the pit lane exit and went sideways into the barriers. This was enough for the race director to deploy the red flag. Despite some windows of lighter rain, qualifying would restart more than 2.5 hours later. And yes, it was good to see quali in changing weather, but it was all almost fucking pointless, apart from stunning performances by young guns like Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon and Stoffel Vandoorne, and of course disappointing showings from the local favorites Ferrari. Hamilton, Verstappen, Ricciardo and the aforementioned youngsters did really well in treacherous conditions, but the actual starting grid for Sunday would be turned inside out, chopped with a rusty knife, dumped into a blender and served cold to the fans. All because of fucking grid penalties. Here we go. Deep breath. Both McLarens, the Red Bulls, both Renaults, Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, early casualty Grosjean had all sorts of grid demotions for this race. It was so fucking stupidly mental that Perez, despite his penalties, started the race one place higher than he qualified in. And good luck explaining this to a new fan, Formula 1. If watching all these demotions occur and the actual starting grid taking shape didn't make you feel a little dizzy, then all I can say is congratulations, don't ever call me, you boring bastard. Anyway, Lewis Hamilton took pole position and with it he raised the all-time record for F1 poles to 69. Michael Schumacher's records are starting to fall. Young Lance Stroll started second with another junior in Esteban Ocon lining up in third place. The Red Bulls were near the back of the grid and the Ferraris started 5th and 6th respectively. Good. We move on. Next day, race day. Lights out and Hamilton gets away cleanly. He moves to the right to cover the fast-starting Williams of Stroll. The Canadian has to lift off the throttle, which allows Ocon to move round the outside into the first chicane and takes second place. Behind this, the two Finns on the grid were engaged in their own battle. Bottas was too eager on the throttle on the exit of the first chicane and Raikkonen planted a move on the run-up to Roggia. Massa and Perez made slight contact into the first corner but sustained no serious damage. Verstappen meanwhile had a monstrous start from 13th and was up 6 places by the time he reached Roggia. Ricciardo, having started 17th, was up only 1 place, but both Red Bulls were on the counter strategy, starting on the slower soft tires, go very long, then switch to the faster super softs for a final dash to the checkered flag. Having defended his position into turn 1, Hamilton started to put some distance between him and the chasing pack. The plan was simple. Pull away in the opening laps, build a gap to Vettel, detune the engine, cruise to the end of the race and celebrate all night another victory. His teammate Bottas, however, had work to do. Luckily for him and to the dread of the Tifosi, Raikkonen made things a tad easy for his countryman. Out of the Ascari chicane, Kimi had an awful moment which allowed Valtteri to slingshot past him on the run to Parabolica on the first lap. Just 1 lap later and Bottas makes another move, this time on Stroll. With Ocon just ahead, the race would feature a Mercedes 1-2 shortly. Lap 3 and gaining momentum down the start-finish straight, Vettel was on the tail of his teammate in the first chicane and on the run to Roggia. A brief battle between the Ferraris resulted in Seb nailing the move down into the first Lesmo corner. Another DRS move on Stroll down the main straight promoted Vettel up to 4th. Ocon was next, but it took Seb no less than 4 laps to make that pass, by which time he was 7 seconds behind Bottas and more than 10 from Hamilton up front. Even though he was running in clean air, Vettel was lapping some 6/10 slower than the Mercs. And to rub some salt into the wound, without any threat from behind, both Silver Arrows were running with their engines detuned. The Ferrari was simply no match for the Mercedes on this day. For Sebastian, the home race for Ferrari had turned into one of damage limitation, and we were less than 15 laps in this Italian Grand Prix. While all of this was developing up front, Verstappen was right on Massa's tail at the end of the second lap. He forced his way past in the first chicane but carried too much speed in. His Red Bull slid into the side of the Williams and Max's right front tire was punctured. He navigated slowly back to the pits for a new set of tires and rejoined the race at the back. Slowly but surely, Max would fight his way up to 10th at the flag. No technical retirements this time, but this guy really can't seem to catch a break. Teammate Ricciardo, meanwhile, was on a charge. Despite his slow start and slight contact with Grosjean in the opening laps, he dispatched off Sainz, Hülkenberg, Kvyat and Magnussen easily enough. Making the most of his more durable soft tires, he closed in on Perez and the fight ahead of Massa, Raikkonen, Stroll and Ocon. Lap 15 and Ferrari, in need of a new battle plan, called Kimi in the pits. Both Stroll and Ocon respond in the following laps with their own pit stops, but Kimi undercuts the Canadian. Feeling a tad better on softs, the Ferrari driver finally makes a move on Ocon on the 26th lap. Meanwhile, in the 17th lap, Danny Ric had caught up Perez. The Aussie takes P8 from the Mexican with a move that would put a tear in old Nigel Mansell's eyes. It was a dummy to trump all dummies at that section of the track, with Ricciardo selling it to perfection. Jinx to the right, then hard to the left for the inside of the corner. Any other day and this would have been move of the race. However, Danny Ric had another one at the ready. Stay tuned. Lap 32 and Vettel finally pits. He extracted every single bit of performance from the Supersofts and the leading Merc was almost 20 seconds ahead by this point. Hamilton and Bottas make their tire changes in the next successive laps and the two main title rivals start treading fastest laps for a while. Never really in danger, Lewis eases off and starts the final cruise to the flag, with Bottas following suit some 3 seconds behind. With everyone in front of him having made their pit stops early, Ricciardo's pace was more than enough to emerge in front of Massa, Stroll and Ocon after his own pit stop. On fresher, faster, super soft tires he set off for the Ferraris. Lap 41 and down the start-finish straight, the Red Bull of Danny is still small in the mirrors of Kimi. So I can only imagine the Finn's surprise when he saw that car alongside him and then ahead in the first chicane. This was something else. Danny Ric was already considered one of the best overtakers in Formula 1, but this was special. It came from such a long way down with only a hint of locking wheels and carrying such speed into the corner. La Pista Magica, as Monza is known, had witnessed a truly magical moment. But Danny was not done. Oh no. Having received word from the team that Vettel was 10 seconds ahead and 1 second per lap slower, the Aussie started to relentlessly close the gap. Despite fastest lap after fastest lap, in the end he fell just short of another out-of-nowhere podium. But his race from 16th to 4th at the flag was nothing short of mesmerizing. The story up front was clear, however. Mercedes had truly demolished Ferrari in Italy. The leading red car of Vettel was more than 35 seconds behind Lewis and Raikkonen was more than a minute behind the winner. As a result, Hamilton leads the driver standings with 3 points from Vettel and Mercedes holds a huge-ish advantage of 62 points over Ferrari in the constructor standings. Is this just a blip in the Ferrari armor, or have they made some serious mistakes that will carry on in the next races? The fact is, Ferrari were close to Mercedes in Belgium, a track with similar characteristics, but at Monza they were nowhere. Low downforce packages simply work better on the Silver Arrows, and with Singapore almost surely favoring the high downforce packages at Ferrari, this championship is far from over. Elsewhere, Force India and Williams scored each 10 points, so that battle stays the same, which all but assures the Silverstone-based squad is set to finish yet again the season in P4. And that was the review of the 2017 Italian Grand Prix. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what are your thoughts of this Grand Prix and who was your driver of the weekend. If you've enjoyed it, like and share it, and if you're new around here, please do subscribe for more F1 content. I've been Chip from the Digital Grandstand. You can find me on Twitter at chip_DGS, and that was Beyond the Finish Line for the 2017 Italian Grand Prix. Ferrari, your move.